Bad. Remember that video I did a couple days ago talking about the CR80 and how everything was all messed up? So, oh, actually, I should have showed you it was stuck. But give me a moment here. Put that back on. Okay. You're not going to see it, but it was stuck earlier. So I was hoping this was the issue. And as you can see, let's see here, that nut was loose. We're going to turn that towards the light. So what happened, here's the crank. There's your drive gear to the clutch. This goes through to the transmission. This is your water pump impeller drive gear. So this nut came loose. And what happened was as it came loose, it spun. And you can see a little bit right there where it turned into the case. Luckily, the customer stopped, shut everything down, gave us a call and said, hey, the engine's stuck. And I told him, I go, okay, don't keep firing it up. Don't keep trying to run it. Just bring it to the shop. We'll take a quick look at it. And yeah, I told you the story before. So he pulled the top end. The top end was beautiful. There was no stick marks, nothing. But as you can see, there is a little bit of grease on my nose now. I'll put new fluid in. But this nut backed off. You see it's loose. It hit the case. What that did is as this backed off, it pushed the whole crankshaft over to our right, or the ignition side. That caused the crankshaft on the inside of the case to hit the case, and that's why it was stuck. So, yeah, that should be a fairly easy fix. The gasket's in excellent condition because they had claimed that the bottom end was freshly rebuilt. And based on the age of the gasket, besides all the debris, or not debris, but just the grime on it, I would tend to agree with that. But yeah, this is a good time to check the impeller. This particular impeller, I know this one has new seals because I put the seals in it when I did the top end. And the customer drove it for a couple of hours, called, said it stuck. When I pulled the cylinder, I saw the crank was moved over. And in a weird way, this is exactly what I was hoping for, is that this came loose and just drove the crank into the cases. And so when you're pulling apart the 80s, you want to be careful to... Give me 1 second. Okay, you want to be careful. The reason I had it tilted, I didn't think I was going to save the oil, but I didn't want to lose this little hat for the clutch lifter. I didn't want to lose that stuff. But yeah, so we're going to spin everything over. I'll show you the piston here in a moment. I also don't want to just slap the piston into the case, because then that'll screw up the piston skirt, and then it needs a new piston. And look at this piston. It's, again, it's barely broken in. No scoring. Piston was in excellent shape. The only problem with something like this is if this nut was loose, what else is loose on the engine? So I like to cover the piston, put a rag in the bottom. Like I said, we're going to check those gears. We're going to check the impeller before I put that back on. I'm not having an ongoing chat because I can't read the phone anyway. Next one I need to pull apart is this one. Yeah, this one. I screwed this one up. So that has to come apart today. I could probably do that one on the video for you. Okay. I think I want to do that. I want to do it that way. Okay, when you do this, when you take it loose or when you're tightening it, make sure you have a firm grip on the piston, because you see how I'm moving the piston, the rod up and down? You see this area spinning? If you do not hold this and you just go, bah, 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 that's going to spin around. The rod will hit the cases. The piston will hit the cases. For sure, you will need a new piston. Even if it doesn't look damaged, it's just cast. So most likely it'll be damaged. Okay, everything looks good there. What you can do too is if you don't have an impact, you can put a towel or a rag between the gears and stop it that way. They also have clutch basket holders, and you can use a clutch basket holder. It basically slides over the splines to hold everything. There's a couple different ways of doing it. But yeah, I was telling you about the other engine that I screwed up. Not proud of it, but I had it sitting in my clean tank, and so there's the rag trick. These only need to be 6 foot-pounds, not super tight, but you saw me pull the cover. You saw that this was loose. So while I'm in here, I'm just going to check everything else that I can touch to make sure it is good. And probably before I get any further, what I should do is check the gearbox. Can you tell this came off of a CTS? CTS shift arm. So I should have been careful there because this is actually goes all the way through to the other side and there's no cover. But the reason I didn't clean this engine really well before I pulled it off, to be quite honest, was I didn't know exactly what was wrong with the engine, and I figured if it has to get torn all the way down anyway, then I might as well tear it down, then clean everything up. Right here, I'm just checking for side-to-side play, not when it's assembled, just to see if the shift arm is sliding on the shift shaft. Let's see. Right now we have neutral, so it'll go down. And don't you love greasy engines? That'll be second. That's actually a lot of slop on there, on this counter shaft. Gotta make sure I don't kick that out by accident. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I got to be careful because there's a little hat and we don't want to dump that out. But what I'm doing is I'm just draining out the remaining oil. Unfortunately, it was brand new, but whatever. $20 is better than guessing on how much oil is in there and not putting enough. Yeah, the next one I'll do is I'll do that engine. I don't know if it's in the video or not. That engine, I'll tear that engine down next. That one's going to come all the way down to the cases. Not cases, transmission. Because I screwed up on that one. So I need to, I pulled a cover. I wasn't thinking. And I can actually show you on this one. So you see inside this cover, there's that nut or that bolt on the outside, that bolt. So this bolt here, I screwed up on that engine. I pulled the water pump assembly off and I pulled that out because I noticed it was an aftermarket bolt. So I pulled it out and it was stripped. So I was like, oh, I'll leave it out. So I remembered to retap that. Well, then I put that engine in my solvent tank. And then I realized after the fact, it's like, you dummy. On the 80s, there's that bolt. And then there's also, if you remove the base gasket, there's a hole from the cylinder area down to the case. If you take the gasket off, you can also leak oil out. And even though I had the cylinder and everything on, stupid me removed this bolt right here because it's stripped. I removed it and I forgot. I put it in the solvent tank to clean everything. And then I realized like, okay, that one needs to get torn down because I'm going to have to go through and make sure there's no solvent. It's a water-based solvent, water and steel rust. So yeah. So I wasn't planning on doing that one today. I was just planning on cleaning it. But after I did that, that one's going to have to get torn down so I can get all that water and moisture out of that one and get the transmission wrapped up. But you know what? When you do stupid stuff, you get stupid consequences. So instead of just an hour in the shop on a holiday week, I'm going to be here for a few hours because I screwed up. Is there a dowel? Okay, there's a dowel there. There's a dowel here. So there's a dowel there. And there's a dowel there. Dowel. And then I don't know if you saw it earlier. I wasn't chatting or talking, but let's see. I'll get rid of that one for a minute. Yeah, so there's a dowel, and you want to make sure the dowels are in place. You want to make sure your gasket is not ripped. Normally on these older engines, I end up replacing the gaskets anyway, but this one, according to the customer, they claimed it had a fresh rebuild. I'm going to believe them because there's no way this would have loosened up after, years of running. So I'm going to believe it was a fresh rebuild. And when this was assembled last, that was loose. And what you're going to need to do to get the impeller to line up, just move the piston up and down. That moves those gears. So then the impeller and the gear can line up. And then that'll allow you to push the cover all the way back on. We're going to double check that. Okay, and you can see where it's pushing the case off. That's normal. You want that. And I always tell people if you're mechanical but not familiar with a specific engine, then always do a video or take pictures, especially when you're swapping hardware and such like that. But on the Hondas, Honda's got a system, right? So you can pretty much just put the bolts in. That one came out of the water pump. So you see how that one has about 10 millimeter of bolt hanging out? That's normal. So you can go through. You can line them all up. I'm just going to grab a random bolt. I'm taking that out. That one bottoms out, right? No threads, wrong bolt, wrong hole. Put that in. This bolt goes all the way through the impeller cover, primary cover, and into the case. Needs about 10 millimeter of bolt shank hanging out. That one's going to go there. You also have to pay attention to different heads. And somebody at some point change these out, because some of the water pump covers or some of the case covers will have a wider flange head. I need a small one now. Let's see here. Nope. That one was that. It's kind of like a little puzzle, but you know, puzzles always give you clues. No, that was the bolt I was going to replace. That one's too long. That's too long. And you have to remember too, these are, you know, cast. Oh, that's probably, is that? Yeah, that's correct. Sorry. Yeah, these cases are just cast aluminum. So you got to be careful when you're putting this stuff together. If you're going to use an impact, don't sit there and because that'll strip the threads out, and then you're going to end up in the situation I have with that engine, where that one's going to come apart. That's going to go there. That's going to go there. That's going to go there. No. So it's not uncommon for the 80s to have to get helicoiled. Is that under there? There we go. So like I said, I'm going to use an impact just to zip it up, but then when I do the final torque, it's going to be by hand. And you'll notice I'm not going to sit there and da-da-da-da. That's the technical term. Da-da-da-da. Now, some air guns or impact guns have settings. This one doesn't. You want to double check that you didn't crease the gasket. Usually with an gasket that's already been in place, you're not going to have that issue, but a new gasket, you want to make sure it's on the dowel pins that I showed you, and you don't crease it or miss the gasket sealing surface altogether. And then you're going to skip around the case to tighten everything up. And while you're doing this, what you don't want to do is have the case start here and then kinked, right? You don't want it to be twisted or not sealing on the whole surface. So you bounce around. You can't really do a star pattern on this case, but you're bouncing around opposites, okay? Go to the opposite bolts. And then that way you can make sure the case cover is securely and evenly. That one's going to be the rest of my hand because my socket is bottoming out. Okay. So we're going to need a different socket. Bear with me. These are 8mm heads. Again, this is all just preliminary right now. So I'm just snugging them. And a 6mm bolt, if I remember right, is 7 foot-pounds. That's my bad ratchet. I think it's 7 foot-pounds. So before we get too carried away, we got the cover on. And just take a moment, just make sure the crank is nice and free, and that one is. So we're good. And then finish tightening them up. This feels like a ratchet that I probably over torqued and took some of the teeth out. If you're new to mechanicking, you'll want to use a torque wrench on everything until you get a feel for it. And you'll get a feel for it, especially when you have your own tools. You'll feel what it's like. Or you can do the garage mechanic thing and you tighten it tight till it loosens up. And then you back it off a quarter of a turn. That's what that clown did with that engine. So that's not that. That was my ratchet. So just evenly snug everything up. Again, that's my ratchet. I have one ratchet, not in the quarter drive, but in a 3/8. And the way I hold it, my hand or my thumb hits the little switch. And I'll be tightening and I'll loosen it up by accident because tight up, I hit the switch. But that's not the case on this one. The cogs are just bad. Okay. So if you're wondering why this one has a different bolt, is the Honda CR80s came out of motorcycles. We put them on go-karts. This is an aftermarket exhaust pipe holder. So the stock bolt that goes into that normal location is not the right length once you add the bracket. Okay, so we're good there. That's just snug. That's not final torque because I don't know where the pipe is going to end up on this engine once I get the cylinder on the pipe. And the gentleman that's picking this engine up, there's a rear plastic bumper. So I'm going to try to get the exhaust in an orientation so the silencer isn't shooting right onto the rear plastic bumper. Okay, so that was that. Double check that one. Okay, double check that one. So that one, this one's gonna get. I'm gonna put the cylinder on. That'll be pretty straightforward. Let's get to that other engine. Okay. Actually, I'm gonna take a quick restroom break, and I'll be right back. But then we're gonna jump on this other engine that I screwed up. This one. All right, we're back. So sometimes I think maybe I'm a little too transparent by saying I submerge that one under water, or not water, water-based solvent, and most of the time I part these engines out anyway, so it doesn't matter because I'm going to part them out and clean them up, put them on the shelf. But like I said, I wasn't planning on doing it with this engine today. I'm kind of forced to. But I've been meaning to do a video like this for a while. You can see this one here. Is this the one? There was one that was a pretty rough engine anyhow. I mainly bought it for parts. So you'll see here in a second. All right, so what we need to do on this one is you're going to hang tight. Did you guys see my video last week of accountability? And damn it, that was a brand new glove. Just tore it. The accountability video I did on keeping me accountable. And okay. So I did the accountability video. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, this whole area was covered in just crap. Well, now everything's organized. And I'm going to do a solid top on the bench here with plywood. A solid plywood top. All right, so we're going to tear this 80 down to the transmission. Okay? That's going to be the video now. We'll tear this thing down, and you'll see how it goes. First thing we need to do is remove the engine mount. So this one here is a CTS engine mount. Looking at the threads, it's probably American hardware, even though it's a Japanese engine, but that's what a lot of us did. So we will. I like to put the wires up and over the engine so you're not dragging them. This actually has a lot of sharp edges. We don't want to screw up the wires and cause even another problem. And what we're going to do is take the J-arm off, or shift arm. If you're wondering why this one is different than the last one, actually both engines came off CTSs. One came off of a CTS with a bump shift lever, The other one came off of a CTS with a butterfly shifter or paddle shift. This shift arm is for a paddle shift. And these are things I'm always looking for when it comes to Honda 80 parts, are the J-arms and the not too much of the paddle shift setups. We don't see those too often. What were we going to do? We're going to split these cases, but we have to take this off first. I wanted to do the J-arm, so when the engine mount comes off, it's not just hitting on a high spot. Is that? I don't know if that video, that's probably coming through okay. Yeah, that's probably okay. I have found that even though I live stream and right now a lot of people are not tuning in, I have found I become very much more productive when I'm just randomly talking to people. So I'm looking for a 1/2 inch or a 13. Okay. For the engine mount on the rear. Now you'll notice here that the silencer bracket is mounted to the engine mount. When possible, and if you have the clearance, I prefer that setup. And the reason for that is when you're moving your engine back and forth on the chassis, do they keep everything? That looks like it's the same. I've done these many times, and depending on who puts them together or what, there's always different hardware. When I worked at Swede Tech, we actually, after assembly of the engine, I don't want to touch my drill with those hands. After assembly of the engine, what we would do is, I didn't do it. They wouldn't let me work on stuff. After the assembly, Swede Tech, they would run a boring bar through the cases, and they would switch everything over to metric because everything on the engine was metric. The engine mounts that Swede Tech Racing made, all the hardware was metric, and it just made for a much more uniform experience. Now, I haven't done an 80 in a number of years as far as pulling it apart, so you might have to bear with me for a little bit. But I promise you, eventually, we will have it apart. Outside of your normal, well-versed toolbox for a mechanic's toolbox, what you will need is a flywheel puller for this. And I have a couple of videos on here of how to use the flywheel puller. And if you're doing a lot of work on stuff, I would suggest buying the best tools possible for the job or the budget. So I know these are cheap circlip pliers. They're my track pliers. They're the ones that if people want to steal them, borrow. They want to borrow them and they don't make it back, then I'm upset, but I'm not heartbroken. And if you're wondering why I'm using these pliers versus my shop pliers, it's because at the end of the year, I took all of my different toolboxes. This is normally much easier. I take all my tools, my toolboxes, I clean them, I reorganize them. I break down the old tools that I was using for that season. And maybe it's not even the plier. Maybe it's the operator or the light. My daughter would say, yeah, because you're getting old. There are certain tasks around the shop I dread. Reading jets, I dread that. Yeah, bear with me. Let me see if I have my other pair. Well, that's weird. Maybe. I know these are the wrong direction. I'm just seeing if the tits are going to fit. Those might be a little too big. I have one pair that they came back in the end of the somebody conveniently broke the tip off of one, so their one side is right, the other side is broken, and but again, a lot of times when it comes to this stuff, it's usually just error of the user. Yep. No, user of the error. Error of the user. Or it's just the tips are the wrong size at the end of the circlip. That could be it too. Or maybe this is why we use the E-clips. All right, let's do it the... Okay, if you do it the way I'm about to show you, when you're done, you throw away the circlip because it's garbage. In a jam, make sure you have an extra circlip. If you do it this way, the circlip is going to be toast, which on this engine, it doesn't matter on this engine. I mean, it's already rusted and old. Hell, this might get more views than anything else. Just be, hey, look at this idiot trying to do a circlip. Okay, I don't remember these being... So the reason is, there's the circlip, right? Now you look at it from that angle, you see how it's not aligned, it's not flat. It's garbage. Don't lose a race because you're cheap on $1 parts. Don't lose those races. Okay, nice and dirty. That can go sit in the tank. Actually, it can sit in the tank, but let's do this. Let's take this. Let's see. Those are the same length. Let's keep all the hardware together. If you're wondering what I'm doing here, I'm just going to go through it in my tank. So this will at least just keep all these parts together. That's all. Because once I break this engine down, the sprocket and the shift arm don't have to stay with that engine. Hands. I wonder if there's a way to do a live chat where I could hear people chatting. Like they could call. Oh, I should have done that. Where I could hear people. They could just like talk on the live chat. That'd be kind of actually cool. What did we say we were doing on this one? Tearing it all the way down? All right. If it's a Honda and someone did not replace the hardware, these are going to be 12 mil heads. And the engine mount was 13, sometimes half. Let's see what we got going on here. If you're using an impact, make sure you use a 6-point socket, not a 12-point. Okay, nuts. These I don't know what I'm gonna use these for. Those are serrated nuts. Those are not the nuts that came on the engine. They should be flat flange nuts, not the serrated ones. Bear with me for a second. The spark plug wrench. Oh, it's loose. All right. Oh, I was about to hit that with the impact. So if you ever use an impact on a spark plug, throw it away. They're not designed for impact. Sometimes they're just too tight in the head to get out when it's out of a cart and you lose the leverage. But if you have to use an impact on it, throw it away because there's a good chance you're going to damage the spark plug. The ceramic will crack or something will happen. Okay. What are we doing here? I'm just looking at the head. This one has a head gasket. Anytime you're pulling apart a karting engine, always check, does it have a head gasket or does it have head or cylinder O-rings? On the Hondas, the gaskets are OEM, but a lot of the engine builders swapped them out and used O-rings in the head or in the cylinder. And then the cylinder base gasket, make sure you measure those because there is, again, the engine builders would go through and they wanted to set the cylinders to certain heights because of port timing, squish, compression, blah, 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 or all of the above. So when you're pulling apart a Honda CR80 for karting applications, you need to check if it's an OEM head gasket, measure the thickness. There's 10 thou and I think there's 30 thou. 30 thou is basically two of this style head gasket sandwiching a spacer plate. And I don't know what years those came on, but make sure you always measure everything because in karting, every engine builder had their own way of finding power. And it's not common to have is not common to have a stock CR80 in karting. Most of them have been modified or some way. Okay. Oh, nice. What am I doing here? I don't know. Oh, yeah. Is that cracked? I hope so. Where? Okay, I know. I think I had this engine on a video before. Maybe last week? That cylinder name is familiar. If you're going to use tools to pry stuff apart, be careful. Because you don't want to damage a gasket surface. For example, you don't want to like just stick this in there and start prying away, because you will damage these gasket surfaces. I would generally tell someone don't ever do this, but I know how hard I need to tack it to break it loose. Where's the ring end gap? There it is. Okay. Again, I'm only just trying to break apart whatever that gasket material is, but I can't find a good lip. And again, this one's coming all the way down anyway. There's a little bit of a lip there. Again, you don't want to beat the crap out of it. Just tap it. There we go. Just enough to break that. So just tap it. Oh yeah, see, this is all glued together. Rust. Honestly, the rust is probably my doing. I would be surprised if it rusted that fast. Doesn't matter. It's going in the solvent tank anyway. Get rid of the gasket. After I told you to measure everything, right? You've seen my other videos where I clean the gaskets up with razor blades. Also in the comments, I probably won't respond a lot today because I can't see it. I'm working on a way to do live stream and chat, etc. I was trying to get my daughter in here today so she can kind of run that side of it. But I was either having a bad connection or I have an older computer and everything wasn't syncing up properly. Not that it matters for today, but then at least I could have, I was almost thinking about on the wall having a monitor so I could see the chats come through. There we go. Okay. Leave that. I'll know what that goes to. Earlier today, I had a pick for something. Dental pick. If you're going to do your own engine work, grab a dental pick. So that way you can easily do not reuse circlips from the engines. Do not, do not, do not, do not. And do not. Do not, do not. Yeah, this piston's fried. So it may also be cracked. See on the edge here? You can see the wear right there. Just see if we can get that in the light. But that may also be cracked. But this piston's had a rough life. They're scoring right in line with the ring pin locator. Lots of carbon buildup on the top. You flip it over, you see underneath there's a lot of black buildup on the inside. That's a lot of heat going through the top of the piston. So that is this isn't even usable for a backup. Sometimes I'll keep pistons that have a minute bit of wear, but this is just complete garbage. I mean, it's good for somebody to put on their shelf. Garbage. All right, I got to think for a minute because on the 125s, I think I always took the ignition side off first and flipped them on that side so everything stayed together. And that might be the same here. Again, all of this is because I was going to do this eventually. But today's my family's first, let's get rid of that. Today's my family's first day of break. Standard thread. So righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Today's my family's first day of winter break. I was hoping to spend some time with them. And such. But I have a couple of projects I got. This became a quick project. Not a quick. This became a priority project because, like I said, I got water end in the bottom end. And transmission parts can be expensive if you can find them. So I want to make sure I get this apart and cleaned and all that good stuff. So next, we are removing the flywheel. One of these. This is one of my issues I have. I get on these wild tangents of cleaning and organizing, and then I forget where I put stuff. So if you were me, where would you put a pooler? You would probably put the pooler in your engine building box, right? That's where you would put the pooler. Or you would create a box that says poolers and chain tools. And then you have poolers and chain tools. There you go. Poolers and chain tools. So that's where I put it. And it's going to be that one right there. I just know that because I've used it so many times. Pullers and chain tools. Now, ask yourself, let's say a shop's hourly rate sorry. I was remember when I said I cleaned this whole bench because I found these on there too. All the chain tools that I have. So 415 chain tool. So we're not going to mess around. We're just going to put that stuff where it belongs right now. So chain tools. But let's say a shop's hourly rate is $100 an hour. And you think to yourself, for you, that doesn't offer a lot of value. Well, ask yourself, how many special tools do you need to do that particular task? And if I'm in a little bit of an ornery mood, I used to have the saying, well, if you have to ask, you probably shouldn't do it. So if someone would call and go, hey, is it easy to split the cases on a Honda CR80? My response, if I was in a little bit of a sour mood, would be, if you have to ask, you shouldn't do it. Because generally, there's a lot of mechanical people out there that are very skilled, but maybe have never done, let's say they've built a lot of engines in the past, but they've never done a Honda CR80. I'm the exact opposite. I have not built a lot of engines in the past, but I have pulled apart a lot of Honda CR80s and CR125s. But that doesn't mean I have a lot of engine building or assembly experience. It just means I had a lot of time at a respected engine builder in tech pulling the engines apart. So, and it was two of them, 80 and 125. So, you know, if a shop says, oh, my hourly rate's $100 an hour, and you don't think that's good value, ask yourself, well, what tools are they going to need to finish my job? Pullers. You can buy them online. You can find them anywhere from $20 to $40 for that puller that I just used. Okay? So now you're doing the job yourself. Now you just spent money on a tool you may or may not ever use again. Is that good value for you? So for everybody, that's going to be a different answer. For some, they may say, absolutely. I fall in that category on the Briggs & Stratton stuff. I think I bought all the tools to measure and tear apart Briggs & Stratton engines. I did not buy them for the shop to actively service them. I did it because I was curious on how the engine works and how they go apart, because my dad and I, we raced Briggs & Stratton. So for me, it made sense. If I was a random guy, I didn't have a shop space or an area to work on stuff and, you know, ways to efficiently clean parts, I may say, you know, that doesn't have a lot of value for me. I can spend that money elsewhere. I can spend that time elsewhere. But I'm not here to tell you what is valuable or not. I'm just here to say, when you question people's shop time, just ask yourself, what special tools are they going to need? What special skills do they have that I don't have? And it goes back to, if you need to ask, if you can do it, you probably can't. The question you should be asking yourself is, I know I can do it. Oh, I didn't put that in the. I'm gonna go do that right now. The question you should ask yourself, or ask the person, instead of saying, "Hey, is that easy?" or "Should I do it?" The question should be, from your experience, do I need any special tools to do that task? And I almost guarantee you that all of my peers, all of my competitors will probably charge you more money if you attempt to do something yourself. And then you can't complete it and you have to bring them a pile of parts. Because now they're going to question what parts are missing, what parts are damaged. Perfect example, when I said earlier that this engine had a stripped out plug. The perfect example, right? If this engine came to me in pieces and somebody said, "Hey, Jason, can you put it back together for me?" Honestly, if it was, if the transmission and everything is apart and in a bunch of pieces, I'm just going to send them to Swede Tech or one of the reputable engine builders that are located near them. Because there's a lot of little intricate parts on the engines when you get into the transmissions where circlips and washers and shims, if they're missing, can make somebody's life hell. And unless they do a ton of those engines on a regular basis, they may get to a point where they get it together and they realize, oh, this isn't shifting right, or the tolerance is a little bit off. Then they have to go back and go, oh, yeah, that's because this little shim is missing. That happens all the time. I mean, it's... I know some shops that they won't even take on the work. They'll just go, no, thank you. Call somebody else. Because when you're pulling stuff apart, you're also looking for things. Like I keep going back to this case cover. I pulled it apart. I noticed the primary cover was stripped. I have to repair that. I fucked up. Excuse my language. I screwed up. I didn't plug it when I put it back in my cleaning tank. I didn't plug it when I put it back in my cleaning tank. And that's the sound I made. Oh. Now Jason's pulling apart an engine a week earlier than he wanted to. Okay. What I'm doing here is this engine was running, so I want to make sure I keep all the ignition stuff together because it was a running engine. All right. The moment of truth. I think you can see past my messy hair and where I have the camera set. Okay, remember, you're pulling it apart. You don't know where anything goes. What are we doing? We're watching it. We're creating a video of where everything goes, right? You're doing a video. So you can say, oh yeah, all these go Bang, bang, bang. And don't watch my videos and assume my stuff is correct, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 Honda CR80 engines here. Most of them I'm going to part out. One of them I'm selling. The others, I have one on a cart, and what I'm probably going to do is go through everything and try to find a similar match as a backup engine, even though I'm not racing. Oh, you know what? I didn't think about this. I'm so used to all of these engines being slip fit on the cranks that I didn't. I actually don't have a case splitter, so hopefully I don't need it. From Honda, OEM, in a motorcycle, that's a press fit. All the engine builders that built engines slip fit the cranks. So it was one of two things. They either I'm using a light rubber mallet because I'm just trying to tap it apart. Let's see. You don't want to just beat the crap out of it. You just want to lightly tap it. And that's... Is it going? I don't... Honestly, I can't tell if that's going or not. And you don't want to beat the crap out of it, because on the opposite side that I'm hitting, the reason I started on this side was, if I remember correctly, if you do this side and flip it on the edge, when you pull everything out, the transmission will stay in the cases. Oh, what was I talking about? Slip fit. So the engine builders will slip fit the cases or the bearings or the cranks, and I didn't even think about this one. Oh, you know what? Okay, so this has been to an engine builder shop. Because there's no serial number on the cases. So that means it was probably a kit engine from Honda. And yeah, so hopefully whoever built this engine slip fit it, and maybe just the gaskets are old and corroded. But what I was saying is, you don't want to just sit there and beat the crap out of what I'm tapping on, because somewhere it ends something, right? So at the end of this crankshaft, we have the impeller gear. We have that nut. Over here, we have the clutch basket. The shift arm goes all the way through the cases. So I'm just trying to tap them gently to help pull it apart. But again, I'm pretty sure if I start on the ignition side, I can flip everything up, pull the transmission and everything out, and not lose all the pieces. And if I do it the opposite way, I can't remember if it was this engine or not. If I do the clutch side first, I thought maybe that stuff fell apart. Like I said, it's been a while since I've done a 80. But I'm trying to avoid dropping all the shims and everything. That's not the right size. Nope, that's a bunch of... Okay, all different sizes. Those look like they're going to be 5 mil. Like I said, I don't remember on the 80. It's been a long time. Maybe that's only on the 125s. And again, I say that I'm saying that because my original thought was I could just split this apart real quick, leave the crank, all the bearings, leave everything in one half, and then what is that? Okay. I don't even know if that's a... That'd be awesome if that's not even a metric bolt, because my 5 mil's not fitting. That'd be great. Okay. All right. That's going to go here. Okay. Oh, good sign. There's not water coming out. That's an excellent sign. Okay, so we're going to tilt that. Did you hear that drop? That should have been the little clutch hat. Okay. On the other engine, remember when I said the little clutch hat? The lifter. So I did not want to lose that. And honestly, I do these so infrequent that let me show you how that works. So the clutch arm goes through the case, and this clutch hat sits in the case or primary cover, and the clutch arm has a machine flat spot. So let's turn this 90 degrees, okay? You'll see it drop. Turn the clutch lifter 90 degrees. You see how it's slightly moving? All right, I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Now it sits in, and then now you should see it open and close. See that? That's pushing in on the clutch. So I've done this, and the reason I'm so vigilant about that particular piece is what can happen is you drop it. You don't know you dropped it. And you put everything together. The clutch doesn't really work. And then you see that laying on the ground. And it's like, oh, yeah, I might need that. I'm already this far. What's an extra 10 minutes? $10 mil head. So what I'm going to do on these, okay. Somebody was looking for a clutch. No, I can't remember who it was. 17 or 15? 14. Yep. I'm actually trying to think last time I did an 80. Oh. Okay. Okay. That's right. That has to come off because that's captive. That's going to be a 17. There we go. There we go. And we're going to put that and that. Keep all that together. We'll take these. Oh, there goes another set of gloves. Do I have your permission for you to be on live YouTube? No.
I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Okay. No. Let's see. I'm trying to keep everything together here. Now go there. That's out. Remember I was talking earlier about this assembly coming apart? So there's a little hat in here. I don't want to screw that up. Okay. Like I said, I went this far because the cases weren't just gently coming apart. And I thought they probably should. I thought I could have at least got this side loose. So normally what you would have, I might have one, but I doubt it, is a case puller. And the case puller basically clamps to the side of the case and it pushes here and lifts the case off. But again, most of the engine builders used press fit or slip fit. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I can tell you an engine builder wasn't through this engine last because that seal's installed crooked. And I don't want to heat the cases. That's another way. You can heat the cases, but double check all my hardware. It's been a while since I've done this. I'm pretty... okay, all those are out. All those. I've done it on carts before. They'll have little set screws, and I'll forget about a set screw and a hub, and they won't move. Yeah, I have all the hardware out on this side. And that's probably not a press fit looking at, where's my nut? The reason I'm saying probably not a press fit is there's no side-to-side action on the crank. See, there's nothing. Good, bad, I don't know. There's clearance. It's free. So what I did is I put the nut on the end of the crank so I can hit the nut and not the crank. But yeah, this thing's not even budging now. I'm probably going to end the video here because I'm going to look for a puller. I don't know where to look for a puller, but I'm going to look. But you probably don't want to just be here waiting for me to look for a puller. But the good news is I didn't have a bunch of water dumping out like I was expecting. So that's good news. And yeah, I might have to call SweetTech and see if I can borrow their case splitter. But yeah, in the meantime, I'm just going to sign off. Let me know in the comments if there's other videos you want to see. And yeah, Extra Kart Parts. Subscribe.